Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the regular scheduled Taber Town Council meeting for Monday, March 11th, 2024. Call the meeting to order and ask for the adoption of the agenda. Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that notwithstanding Council's decision made at its February 12th, 2024 meeting to vote as carried, the motion noted under Resolution 59/2024 to accept the terms of the Meadows lot price increase contract amendment and authorizes the chief elected official and the chief administrative officer to sign the agreement in accordance with the Town of Taber's procedural bylaw 11-2022, section 3.4, Council waives section 6.3.6 and agrees to consider the request to reconsider accepting the terms of the Meadow Lot Price Increase Contract Amendment and signing the agreement at this meeting.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. All in favor? Opposed? All right, thank you. Carried. All right. Ask for a motion to accept the adoption of the agenda as presented then. Do need that. All right. Councillor Bruin, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll make a motion that council accepts the agenda for this meeting.
All right, motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimous. Thank you. Item 3, public hearings. There are none. Item 4, adoption of minutes. Item 4.1, minutes regular meeting of council, February 26, 2024. Mr. Thibault.
Minutes are in front of council for your consideration.
All right. Any questions, comments? Someone prepared to make that required motion? Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council adopts the minutes of the regular meeting of council held on February 26, 2024 as presented.
All right. Thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimous. Thank you. Item 5, business arising. There are none. Item 5.1, Meadows lot pricing contract amendment. Mr. Thibault.
So council has had their vote, 2/3 in agreement to bring this back to the agenda prior to the 6 months that typically has to happen. And so this is to do with the Meadows contract increases. Mr. Douglas Berggren came and did a presentation to council suggesting that a 5% increase take place out of the Meadows. The original pricing of the Meadows happened in 2021 via an appraisal for all the various lots. And there has been no price increases since 2021. So inflationary costs were cited, and that was sort of the basis of Mr. Berggren's presentation, was to trying to keep up a bit with inflation and add this 5% to the lot pricing. That's all I have at this point, so I'll turn it back over to council to rediscuss.
All right, thank you. So I guess as this has been discussed in the past, we had some lengthy discussion. All of our council wasn't there for the original meeting. So glad to see everybody's here for this this particular meeting. A very important decision in this regard. So any other comments, questions? Councillor Bruin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm sorry I wasn't able to be at this meeting, but my thoughts on the 5% price increase is that we've had very little luck selling lots at the price they are at now, and to increase them 5% more isn't going to make it any easier to sell them, so I'd be in favor of not increasing the lot pricing.
All right, thank you, Councillor Bruin. Any other comments, questions? Councillor Sorensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I was opposed during this initial vote, and so I am opposed in not increasing the price. We are trying to make this attainable living. We have struggled in the past in trying to sell these lots, and I just don't think it's in the town's favor to increase the price lot.
All right, thank you. Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. While I can understand the sentiment that Councillor Bruin and Councillor Sorensen brought up, and I don't disagree, however, I see that prices are increasing, and as with any real estate transaction, a buyer is certainly welcome to offer whatever they like. I mean, not that the set price irrelevant, but people have the opportunity to make an offer, and then the town has the right to accept that offer or to reject it. So to increase the lot price, to me, I don't think it would deter people from making that offer, so I wouldn't be opposed to it.
All right, thank you. Councillor Beckering?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with Council First's sentiment. In addition to that, an increase of 5% is about $3,500. If the target price of these units, we've talked about it many, many times, $260,000, that's less than 1.5% of the total price. It's fairly minimal, Mr. Mayor, and I think we should increase their lot prices because inflation is here, and like Council First said, the deterrence is won't be there for 2,000 or 3,000 different lot price. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions, comments? I'd also actually agree with Councillor Sorensen and or Councillor Bruin, citing the fact that difficulty selling the lots has not been easy. And the fact of the matter, we're trying to maintain that attainable housing figure at the $260,000 or less, and have done so thus far with the rental, or sorry, the used units out there that did. I believe we sold 2, Mr. Tebow. Is that correct?
Yep, two units sold.
And we managed to stay under that $260,000 figure, right?
One of them, yes. One of them, I think, was 272 or maybe somewhere around that neighborhood, but close to 260, correct?
Okay, so I guess that's some of the question and their concern. What this was developed for initially was to maintain that attainable housing figure and or solve that particular problem. So I would certainly be leaning against raising the any lot price at this stage. Any other questions, comments? Councillor Sorensen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I think that council has always also improved the incentive bylaw for new construction, and so that would help the cost of that attainable living too. So I think we have certain things in favor of moving forward to reach that attainable housing, and I believe that this increase would deter that.
All right, thank you. Any other discussion whatsoever? All right, someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Firth?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council direct administration to accept the terms of the Meadows lot price increase contract amendment effective January 1st, 2024 until terminated, and authorizes the chief elected official and the CAO to sign the agreement.
All right, motion on the table. Councillor Bruin?
I have a question. If this motion is defeated, what happens then?
Mr. Tebow, then I believe it ends there.
If this motion is defeated, we have that. I think it's that exact same motion is on the table that was already approved. So I'm thinking, Ms. Van Ham, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm thinking you would still have to do a rescinding of the previous motion, 59-2024, I believe, unless this actually accomplishes that same thing.
Ms. Van Ham?
Thank you. So council can still make a motion that isn't intrinsically the same as this one, depending on what your thoughts are. So otherwise, if you want to have it revert, then you would rescind the previous motion, as Mr. Tebow said, or make a new motion.
Right, okay. Thank you. All right, we do have a motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? All right. Carried. Councillor Beckering?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's proper that there's a motion on the floor to rescind the previous motion, because I think the MGA says you must rescind the motion the same method you passed it. So I think it has to be a rescinding of motion. And I'm prepared to make that motion then, Mr. Mayor.
All right, very well.
Want me to spell it out for you?
Sure, I think it's there, yeah, actually.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm prepared to make the motion then. That council direct administration to accept the terms of the Meadows lot price increase contract amendment and authorize the chief elected official and the chief administrative officer to sign the agreement.
Councillor Berkering, I don't believe that speaks to the rescinding requirement.
Move to rescind? That's what,
That was the original motion.
so I want to rescind that motion.
Yeah, I just.
Oh, okay, I'll correct that, Mr. Mayor. I'll move to rescind the motion made by Councilor Beckering that council directs administration to accept the terms of the Meadows lot price increase contract amendment and authorize the chief elected official and the chief administrative officer to sign the agreement. Is that correct?
Yep, that does rescind the motion. 59-2024 was the previous motion number, but that does effectively rescind your motion, the previous motion.
All right, thank you. Councillor Bruin?
Would a new motion need to be made then, because you rescinded the previous motion? No. That's covered?
So the original, yes.
Okay.
All right, Councillor Beckering?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think Mr. Thibault was correct. I should have mentioned the resolution 59-2024 in the rescindment motion, and I do so.
All right, so just to clarify, that's taking that original motion off the table, rescinding, but is it required to have the second piece if that's gone? Mr. Thibault?
Yeah, so the rescinding of the motion, it's best to read the entire motion that was there originally, which is what Councillor Beckering did.
Okay.
So I think that's the way it should be. Yeah.
Then it is covered that, okay, all right, very well. All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Yeah, that's all right.
Got it. Makes sense.
All right, item 6 bylaws, item 6.1 water conservation bylaw 8-2024, Mr. Thibault.
I will have Mr. Munshaw come up and speak to the water conservation bylaw. There was a handout provided for this particular bylaw. There's an amendment that Mr. Munshaw will speak to. And this is fairly similar to the previous bylaw, although the formatting looks much different. So, Mr. Munshaw.
All right, Chief Munshaw.
Thank you very much, Mayor and Council. I get to stand in front of you today to present a water conservation bylaw. The hat that I'm wearing is more an emergency management hat. That's the DEM. And this one is to allude, as we're going into more of a drought type situation, how will we handle the situation where we have to mitigate some water challenges moving forward. As you can see, in the last few years, it hasn't been dealt with since about 2001. So last time that we walked into one of these very challenging drought situations. So to present us today, we've been able to go through a good quality water conservation bylaw that we've been able to present to all directors as well as our media side. And police have had the opportunity to review this and go through it. All those sets of eyes, though, have alluded to one bigger item that we missed one item on the on that to change, which you'll see in that handout, which we would have to be able to amend today if we wish to move forward with it. And that is, we cannot tell people they cannot have water or remove that from them. So the words may forfeit the right to be supplied with water, that's not a thing that we can do. We just did not catch that in all the areas. So we've been able to see that today and make sure that is being able to address in your resolution if you wish to move forward. The biggest components that have been removed from this bylaw are the zoning. You see the maps on the previous ones, very convoluted, very difficult to see. We've been able to move that updated to more of a odd or an even type rotation with a better statement of observation throughout the bylaw. So I'm here in front of you to answer any questions as you wish, and looking to get all 4 readings if you wish to be on the bylaw.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? Councillor Firth?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through to Chief Munshaw. I noticed that it says that it was conservation practices seen in other communities. Was there any specific communities that you looked to model this bylaw?
Yeah, we actually looked at a number of different communities. This actual bylaw was taken out of Foothills County, where we've seen the best practices being looked at. Good quality bylaw, well-written, well-functioned, and that's where we took it from, and then adopted it for Tabor.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? All right, so I'm prepared to make the first required motion. Councillor Firth?
Sorry, add one more question, and then
Sure, yeah.
and then I will make the first required motion. Does this align with our neighboring communities? Sorry, maybe that's a question that you couldn't answer.
I cannot guarantee all of the communities that neighbor our borders. We did look outwards to Lethbridge and to other communities, but not necessarily to Coaldale.
Right.
Reviewed some of the areas they did, as the bylaw didn't look like it was proper in that location. I moved to other areas that looked more suited to us and what we'd be moving forward to.
Right.
Better, more best practices I was looking at compared to what was in alignment with others.
Okay. And I know that in this climate that we are expected to be making plans for water conservation, my concern was just that all of our neighbors, while we can't direct our neighbors to do anything, that they're taking the same steps that we are. We're all kind of drawing towards the same goal. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councillor Effort. Okay, Councillor McLean.
Yeah, I was just gonna make a
Okay, Councillor Sorensen.
I have a question.
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I know that through our suppliers, maybe they have some suggestions of maybe how we can better ration our water. Has that maybe taken account to their advice as to our direction for this policy?
Okay, we do have a large amount of media communication that our media relations has done up to communicate to all of our ratepayers. But as the bylaw identifying more of a restrictive piece as we have to move forward, but not a conservation aspect, we're open to do conservation process through media, good communication, and we have a number of different documents going out so that we're able to adopt and share. I was able to be at a seminar 2 weeks ago now that shared a lot of very quality information to see where we're sitting and how the process is going to lay out as we move forward with the drought, but not necessarily suppliers to supply better rights to save water.
Yeah, my question was like the St. Mary's Irrigation District, TID, like, do they have anything to help us also to conserve or, you know, any direction for this policy? Yeah, no. Yeah, sure.
Mr. Tebow, sure.
I'll just point out that the bylaw doesn't typically carry all the details of what the water conservation might be. So the documentation that Chief Munshaw is speaking about will be asking our residents of that, and we will be in consultation with the province and SMRID to actually roll out what might be the best measures to take, but the bylaw doesn't prescribe that. We would do that. The bylaw allows us to get to the place where we would prescribe what conservation would look like.
All right, thank you. Councillor Becking?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, Chief, at what point would the DEM, which yourself, or the Emergency Management Committee become involved in the contravention of this bylaw?
Great question. At that point, all the way through, this bylaw really doesn't come into effect, more than emergency management. This is only in effect when we hit basically stage 3, when it would be a state of emergency. And at that point, it would be coming in front of council at that point.
All right, thank you. Just to clarify, I believe, so that's different. Stage 3 is the highest on our level in the emergency management. But there's 5 stages with the province. We're at stage 4 now, I believe, right? So the next stage, if we get there, is a disaster stage, right? So I guess this is not uncommon to have these kind of bylaws in place, correct? But if we're in a disaster stage, what are the chances and or the practicality of following through with anything bylaw related when you're in a disaster stage? Chief Muncher.
That's a great question. As you're going through, we're in stage 4, as we know, for the province of Alberta. What they hope in stage 4 is that municipalities will be able to support documentations like this to conserve as much water as possible, watching for grass watering situations. We already know we're there. We're going to do it with education and then move forward with lower stages, as you see in this bylaw, level 1, level 2. And if it gets to the point where in the province we're in a dire strait of water conservation and they may move to level 5, which would be a full provincial state of emergency, which would then, we would be looking at our level 3, which would be following in line with the provincial state of emergency. Our hope between then and now is that we educate, support, and look for water conservation. Hence the lower stages, level 1 for us, level 2, trying to maintain a minimum level of water usage and trying to cut back and give good education as best we can.
All right, thank you, Chief Munson. I think overall, some of the conversations I've had with a number of people brought it up to me, they're already exercising those kind of measures. So I would hope that would continue just kind of naturally, but I guess the education piece is very important as well, and getting that word out as well. So thank you. Councillor Sorensen?
Thank you, Ms. Mayor. If there weren't any more questions, I'd be prepared to make a motion.
All right, very well.
I make a motion that council gives first reading to the Water Conservation Bylaw 8-2024.
All right, thank you. Councillor First had a question also, or you just?
No, I was going to make a motion.
Okay, very well.
Just say as amended.
As amended, sorry.
Let's deal with this. Okay, thank you.
If I could. Excellent, thank you.
All right,
Sorry, do
Clarify
I have
as
to
amended.
rescind, or I might have to add something, withdraw that?
Yep.
And I make a motion that council gives first reading to Water Conservation Bylaw 8-2024 as amended to remove the phrase "may forfeit the right to be supplied with water" in section 8.1.
all right, thank you. Councillor Everett? Okay, just, all right, hang on. All right, motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. I think Councillor Firth was next, but we'll get to yours. All right, Councillor Firth?
We're all like,
Yeah.
We're all just so excited to make motions today. I move that council give second reading to Water Conservation Bylaw 8-2024 as amended to remove the phrase "may forfeit the right to be supplied with water" in section 8.1.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. And Councillor Redford?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I make a motion that council unanimously agrees to proceed to the third and final reading of Water Conservation Bylaw 8-2024 at this meeting.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Councillor Bruin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll make the motion that council gives third and final reading to Water Conservation Bylaw 8-2024 as amended to remove the phrase "may forfeit the right to be supplied with water" in section 8.1.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Councillor Beckering?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, to discuss this particular motion.
Sure.
Just for council information, I believe that if the province should declare a stage 5, any bylaw by any community is superseded by the declaration, correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Do you have a motion on the table? Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. And item 7, action items. Item 7.1, appointment of deputy mayor. All right. And first off, I would just like to thank Councillor Beckering, Deputy Mayor Beckering, for his many efforts in the last several months as well. And if I could just have Councillor McLean join me at the front, please. Just recite the official oath of office as required, please.
I, Monica McLean, swear that I will diligently, faithfully, and to the best of my ability execute according to the law the office of Deputy Mayor for the town of Taber for the term of March 1st, 2024 to September 30th, 2024. So help me God.
All right, thank you.
Me here.
That works, yep. Perfect.
Perfect.
Thank you so much. And
Thank you.
congratulations, Deputy Mayor McLean. All right. Well, thank you again, everyone. All right. Moving on to item 7.2, funding request, Tabor Titans hockey for a cause. Mr. Tebow.
So this funding request coming in front of us, I believe, happened last weekend, and it's looking for a $255 waiver to come from the council discretionary fund potentially. It's up for council's discussion. I know that Mayor Prokop, I believe, participated in that event and maybe could say a few words about it to get the waiver going.
Yes, I can do. Thank you so much. And this is the brochure. Advertisement is courtesy of MD of Tabor, Reeve Tamerminaga. So that's what that's all about. She was very instrumental in what was involved with this, as the both the Tabor ND support as well as the food bank involvement. So that was what the Tabor Titans and the food bank collaboration was all about, related to fundraising for the much needed funds for the food bank. In the last several months, it has increased substantially for the need. So all things considered, it was a lot of legwork, a lot of hours involved for the many volunteers and many donators involved in the supports. And I believe Councillor McLean, Councillor Bruin, Councillor Renford were also there. Did I miss anybody? Councillor Fur, I think you were there also. Yes. So thank you for attending as well. Thank you for all the supports. And I don't know, it's somebody was telling me, this be accurate, some 500 or so maybe in attendance? Does that sound about right? So it was very well received, I believe, and we had a lot of fun with it. And for me, after 2 years not being on the ice, it was a little difficult, I've got to say, but managed to get through it and did have a lot of fun throughout. Anyway, so thank you so much for the supports, and all involved with supporting the Tabor Food Bank and or the Tabor Titans as well. And already talking for this to be an annual event, so it went over that well. Haven't heard any numbers just yet exactly what the funds they raised and or poundage food items, but I believe it was very, very successful overall. So thank you so much for all the many supports and efforts along the way. So that's basically what it's about, a fundraiser involvement and or waiver ask of the $255. Mr. Tebow, is that the correct number? For the ice rental, basically. So Councillor Renford.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Titans are a young group, and I think they were really needed in town, and like the event was great. I think it's going to get bigger and bigger. They played Tabor Minor hockey, then they played the Fading Suns, and then they played the police and the fire. And it was really, really good. It was lots of fun. So I'm willing to make a motion to spend $255 of the 2024 council discretionary fund.
All right.
Or waive the fees, or however you want to do it.
Just
Alternative one.
just want to go through that motion.
I'll make a motion that council could approve the wager of the large ice booking fees in the amount of $255 from the 2024 council discretionary fund.
All right. Thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion, Councillor McLean?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am just in support of this. My kids were also able to participate in singing in the choir to sing "O Canada," and they really loved it. I think it was a great event, and I'm grateful that they put this on for the Tabor Food Bank. I think it was well received and well put on. So thank you.
All right. Thank you, Councillor Bruin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I echo what Councillor McLean says there. I think it was fantastic turnout, and the venue was great. The Tabor Titans and everyone involved did a fantastic job. I believe the icing on the cake was when the mayor was fed the puck so he could score a goal. So I think it was really good.
Hey, you get yourself in the slot, and good things happen, right? So happy to play for the Tabor Titans and support that as well. So. But thank you for that, Councillor Brewer. All right, we do have an official motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. All All right, moving on to item 7.3, Tabor's table sponsorship request.
Ms. Amy
Mr.
Allred
Tebow.
will come up and discuss this one with council. This is a repeat request from last year, if council recalls. Amy.
All right, thank you, Amy.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and Council. I'm here on behalf of the Joint Economic Development Committee to request the town's sponsorship again for this year's Tabor's Table event. Last year's event was a success. We had 98 attendees, 10 local sponsors, 24 local vendors that were showcased, 5 local chefs, and many people tried new foods and products that they had never tried from the region, like the ostrich, the whiskey pork belly, the Ukrainian eggplant salsa, and Earl Grey ice cream. It was a great event that celebrated and brought to life the local food economy. This year is going to be one long, beautifully decorated table downtown, which ties in with our downtown revitalization initiatives. Last year, the town was a gold level sponsor, and we're requesting the same again this year. Gold level sponsors receive 2 tickets, their name announced from the podium, the logo on the keepsake lanyard and poster, and a gift presented during the event, such as this beautiful charcuterie board that a local vendor has made for us that we'll be offering to sponsors as well as for purchase if people would like to purchase them. So what questions can I answer?
All right, thank you. Councilor Beckering.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Amy. This will be the second year, correct?
Yes.
Was there any participation by the MD of Tabor itself as a sponsorship last year?
Yes, they were gold sponsors last year as well.
Have you approached them yet?
It is going to their council tomorrow
Oh, thank you.
for a gold sponsorship.
Thank you.
That's great. Councilor Bruin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question, I don't see, what date are we planning this?
Friday, July 19th.
July 19th. It won't happen to overlap any other events?
Cornstalk is the week after. If that's
Okay,
what you're
good.
asking.
That was part of the issue last year. I wasn't able to attend.
Yes,
so-
yep.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilor Sorensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I sit on the Joint Economic Development Committee, and we are very pleased at how well last year's event went, as well as how well it was attended. And I just would support this ask of, and I'd be willing to make a motion.
All right, thank you. I just have a
Sure.
question from Councilor Beckering, I believe.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, thank you. Amy, what is the total funds required, and would you explain what do you do with it? In other words.
Yeah, so the event itself costs about $30,000 to
Oh.
put on, so the tickets don't cover it.
Just many expenses are required, right? Yeah, Councilor
How
Beckering.
come? No, I just give me the high level, because that's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. Between like the event rentals and the volunteers, we had some paid staff last year. The chefs all get paid. They get an honorarium. We pay for some of the food. Lots of them give a discount, but we pay for a lot of the food or a portion of it as well.
All right, thank you. Councilor Beckering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to follow up then, how many people participate in the table?
Yep. Last year there was 98. We only sell 100 tickets, so we keep it to a limited amount.
That's $300 a person.
Yes.
That's a lot of food.
Yeah, thank you.
No,
And I
sorry,
can-
Mr. Mayor.
No,
I just
that's
wanna-
right.
I want to hone in on that a minute.
Yeah, it's okay.
Besides all that, so what's the benefit then?
The benefit is to celebrate the local food economy and to draw more of a tourism attraction in one sense to the agri-food industry that is here, because a lot of people don't know of all the great things even in their own backyard. But again, people from Lethbridge and Calgary have participated as well and seen what we have to offer.
Thank you, Mr.
Yeah.
Mayor. Follow up?
Sure.
Why does the agri-food industry pay for it themselves?
I don't know that answer.
All right. Well, thank you. I mean, I attended last year as well. That was a very, very well put on event, a phenomenal event actually, and a lot of great work by yourself and all the many volunteers attached to that. And it's basically showcasing Tabor and all our growers and what's in the region, right? So it was very, very well done and very well received. And I think it's going to be that much bigger and better this year. So I would support that 100%. Councilor Sorensen.
Yeah, and I was just gonna add, like, our Joint Economic Development Committee always, wants to put forward initiatives that we can collaboratively support, and so this was one of them, and we're very proud of this. And not only do we promote our local economy, but the local growers too. So hopefully this will just be the spearhead of this event moving forward. I know we tried to hire someone to do this for us, and it wasn't as effective as, unfortunately, our administration to put this forward. So I appreciate all your hard work also. Thank you. And I'd just be
All right.
willing to put them a motion that.
Thank you, yes.
Council approves the 2024 Tabor's Table sponsorship request in the amount of $2,500 for a gold level sponsorship package with funding to come from the 2024 council discretionary fund.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you.
Thank
Amy.
you.
All right, on to item 7.4, 2023 capital project equipment purchase. Degelman sidearm implement. Mr. Thibault.
So this capital project came in front of council in 2023. Funds were carried forward. There's been some competitions go out, and the pricing has come back in something that's a little bigger than what we thought we were going to see. So Lisa DeBona will come up and explain how we got here.
All right, thank
Good
you. Lisa,
afternoon.
welcome.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So we had the approved budget for 2023, and when we sent out quotes, the prices had doubled, which was unfortunate, but we decided to take the rest of the year and look at different approaches operationally and resubmit for quotes this year, hoping that it would go down. It didn't go down at all, but operationally, so this Degelman sidearm, that is what attaches from the tractor to the ditch mower. So the big mower that goes and mows all the highway ditches and all of the town's vacant land out at the landfill, big areas that would take our zero-turn mowers a long time, and severe slope, which is unsafe for our workers to go in, the zero-turn mowers and do. So anyways, the one that we have has served us well. We got it in 2007. I believe it may have been used at that time, which explains why it was way less expensive to buy at that time. But it's lasted. We've had to do a few relatively major repairs on the gearbox, but otherwise it's a pretty solid unit. That's why we would like to go with that again to maintain our service level of the ditch mowing. And also we can continue to use the other one until it's completely useless to us. But Western Tractor is the sole source distributor for Degelman sidearms. They are also part of the RMA pricing program for purchase for municipalities, and their price came back, so we only need an additional $21,900. Any questions?
All right, thank you. Councilor Beckering.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Lisa. I'm not opposed to buying a new Degelman at all, but I'm just wondering, in your procurement practices, wouldn't you have picked up the phone and phone up John Deere and say, approximately how much is a Degelman sidearm? Would you have done that?
Yes.
Did you do that?
At the time, I wasn't setting it, so no, I did not. But that was the budget that was set. I should have looked into it for sure before we submitted it for approval for 2023, but it was unforeseen.
Just a suggestion, I think, that,
Yep.
you know, because I think it's.
I do that now,
I'm
for
not
sure.
surprised. I'm not surprised that it's double from
Yes,
yes,
that's what we do. In 2024, we definitely checked them before submitting them forward. So.
All right. All right, thank you, Lisa. Councilor Brune.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this was sent out to all suppliers.
They're the only supplier.
RME also sells Degelman.
Oh, on
So-
Degelman's website, it says that
Yeah,
they're the only
no,
distributor.
they do. It's not a big deal, but
Oh,
I
okay.
asked our staff and they never saw anything on it. So
Yeah, we went through the RMA program, which
Yeah. Okay, no, I was just wondering
put it
because
right to them.
we did not see anything come across. For
Oh,
it,
okay.
So
Yeah, they should contact Degelman and have that as a,
yeah, we sell quite a bit of Degelman
Okay.
through not just Tabor but all the other stores.
okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilor Sorensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And Lisa, I just have a question. It says operationally, we're aiming to have 2 of these mowers. So are you gonna keep that old one and keep it as a spare? I just didn't understand operationally to have 2.
We currently have 2 mowers and 2
Oh.
tractors. We just have 1 Degelman. So we will continue using the old one until it breaks down beyond repair, but we wouldn't replace it. We would just be replacing this one.
But then, yeah, so your 2 will be the new one and then the spare
Yeah,
old one.
instead of auctioning it off, we will
Just
continue
keep it.
using it until we but we won't repair it again.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Any other questions arising? Councilor McLean?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Like you had said back for the old one that we have, is there any chance of getting a used one, or that those just don't exist? I'm just curious.
There are used ones that are in roughly the same shape as this one. So,
No point. Got it.
All
Thank
right,
you.
thank you. All right, Councilor Redford?
Yeah, I'm just willing to make a motion.
Very well.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll make a motion that council approves the additional funds in the amount of $21,900 exclusive of GST for the purchase of the new Degelman sidearm with funds to come from capital reserves.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you, Lisa.
thank you.
All right, on to item 7.5. Redesign costs for the chamber. Mr. Tebow.
So this one's coming forward. Council had a discussion previously with the Chamber of Commerce, if council recalls, and there was a request put forward to have council look at the costs of redesign due to the sale of the most eastern portion of the chamber lot that was going to have the Sani dump in that portion of the lot. So the invoice came our way, and administration is just bringing it to council for your consideration as previously requested.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? Councilor Firth?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through to administration, did we receive anything that was a little more itemized, or this is the only thing that we have received from the chamber?
I believe this is the only bill that we received from the chamber. It doesn't specifically itemize what was happened. What was discussed was redesign costs for the earth-moving landscaping portion that had water flowing one direction versus another direction was administration's understanding.
Right. And I do sit on the chamber as the town council representative, but there was no discussion about or an itemization. I'm just curious how we got to this number is all. I'm not necessarily opposed to paying for it or paying for a portion of it, but I'm just, yeah, I wish we had some more information. Thank you.
All right, just understand that's all that was ever there, right? That's all they submitted. I think there was some discussions in the past, not talking numbers, I don't believe. Is that right?
So there was no number discussion because the contractor, in this case, hadn't actually gone and done the rework totally at that point. So this is an engineer and the work that he put forward, I suspect. Now, did the chamber get an itemized listing? Maybe they did. I don't know that answer. But right, there was no numbers discussed because we didn't know what they would be, and said we'd entertain that when the numbers were available.
All right, thank you. Councilor McLean?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just trying to understand this a little bit better. So they had their drainage draining onto that piece of property before, and could they have, because it was supposed to be a Sani dump? Is that correct?
From a technical perspective, Mr. Egan, could I get you to come forward and speak to that a bit? You were involved mostly.
Thank you for the question. So the chamber have developed preliminary plans, which include layout drawings. In that area of town, all of the drainage is overland and generally heads west to east. So in the particular lot that the building was to sit on, the parking lot and the Sani dump, all of that water would have run off to the edges, to the road, and then drained to the east, where the Sani dump was to be located. By eliminating the Sani dump, we allowed, they are permitted to drain the lot to the west, which actually we do have a single catch basin over there that we can drain that to. So they can reevaluate the height of their building, floor slab, make those adjustments to provide some better access to the site and better drainage. And that results in either costs or savings in relation to the actual construction work of the building. Certainly there's savings to not building the Sandy dump on the land that we sold to a private developer. So I believe this is particularly just redesign costs associated with that change in elevation.
All right, thank you, Councillor Bruin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There is a catch basin to the east as well, though, is there not?
I don't believe there is, no.
I thought there was one on the corner just further up. To me, it seems like a waste of money. They weren't going to drain it on the land. It was going to the curb. It was going to go east or west once it got to the curb anyways. So to me, I would actually be more in favor of alternate motion number 2, that we request more information about this, a detailed invoice.
All right, thank you. Any other questions arising? Again, I'm just thinking, I guess part of this is, this wasn't public. I don't think we talked about this previous. Is that correct, Mr. Thibault?
If I recall, it was a closed session discussion around land sales that turned into there could be some redesign costs.
So, okay, I guess back to, I got to be careful what we can disclose out of that, right? So, yeah, all right, thank you. Councillor Sorensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just, I think it was assumed that this invoice plus maybe any information was sent to administration beforehand. And then there was discussion that nothing was received, and so then just the invoice was sent. So this could have potentially, there could have been backup sent originally, but that didn't reach the proper person. So, if you want more information, we definitely could provide, or the chamber definitely could provide more information. I don't see why there's no need to ask for that, or no problem in asking for that.
Sure, all right, thank you. Yeah, it's whatever council's comfortable, but I know without disclosing exact details, there was some discussion about a possibility of a bill basically coming. Right, thank you. Councillor Beckering?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I propose a motion.
Sure, very well.
The council direct administration to garner more information from the chamber regarding this particular invoice.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. On to item 7.6, 2023 capital projects, equipment purchase, shuttle Trideck, more. Mr. Thibault.
So we'll have Lisa come forward, and I think second verse close to the first, and she'll explain.
All right, thank you, Lisa.
Yes, this is much the same situation that we had of the previous equipment purchase. This one, operationally, so we do currently have the two mowers. The one that we're replacing is a different type of mower, and so when we do have repairs on the main mower, the downtime switching all of the hydraulic lines and that kind of thing between the two different types is unnecessary downtime that we'd like to fix by going with the same mowers, so that the setup is relatively easy to plug and play between the two if needed.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? Councillor Bruin?
So we're having 22,000 for this, another approximately 22,000 for the Degelman. So about just over 40,000 increase on these two combined units, right?
Yes.
Okay. RME also sells Schultz.
Again, we went through the RMA purchasing program, so.
All right, thank you. Councillor McLean?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can you explain to me what the difference between this mower is and the Degelman mower is? So what is this used for exactly?
This is the actual mower that's in the ditch. The Degelman is an arm that puts the mower down into the ditch so the tractor can stay on the solid level ground, and the mower's down in the ditch.
Okay, I see. Thank you.
Yeah. And it keeps it out of the wet, mucky areas of the ditch.
All right.
Yeah. We did also explore different things, but yeah, we'd like to go with the same one if that's.
All right, thank you, Lisa. Any other questions arising? Councillor Beckering?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just for correction, Lisa, you said the Degelman sidearm was not the whole mower?
No, it's just the side arm that goes
not
from
the attachment to it?
No, just from the tractor to the mower. It's just the arm piece.
I think there was two separate photos there, right?
Yep.
Showing, yeah, I believe it's two different photos there, indicating as such. All right, any other questions arising? Someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Firth?
While I'm not thrilled that we're spending more money, I understand that it's necessary, and so I'm willing to make the motion. I move that council approves the additional funds in the amount of $22,560 exclusive of GST for the purchase of a new Schulte mower with funds to come from the capital reserves.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Right, on to item 7.7, Tank 77 play structure update. Mr. Thibault.
So I believe it was at the previous meeting where council had directed administration to come back with some information around a play structure. So that is what's in front of council, and Mr. Egan will be available for any comment as he had put forward the project plan and can explain what that entails.
All right, thank you, Mr. Egan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council, so yes, before you is a response to the February 12th council meeting direction to explore an option that provided a play structure and had some physical appearance and to pay an homage to Tank 77. So Recreation approached Blue Imp, which is one of their playground suppliers, and they produced the two drawings that you see that provides a sort of a tots to 5-year-old level playground structure. In light of, we've also provided a project statement with a total project budget of approximately $75,000, which would include procurement, erection of the playground structure, relocation of the grass that's there now, the sod, irrigation lines, lighting, power, those kind of things in order to make way. And we're looking at if council decided to move forward with this, then we'd be probably 40 weeks away from the actual start of construction. The only other information I have is at this point in time, we don't have any alignment with this type of implementing this type of a facility in that location with any of our strategic planning documents and or the recreation master plan.
All right, thank you, Mr. Egan. Any questions arising? Councillor Sorensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Egan, would this then still be covered under that initial grant that we received?
No, that grant expires at the end of this month, and they've confirmed that we don't. They will not extend that grant. We could move forward and look for grants as part of an approval process. We do that. That's somewhat typical, that council can approve a project with the caveat that there's a certain portion of it funded by grant.
Okay, but we've lost out on
this
grant.
particular one, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we've just timed out on that.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My 2 cents are that for the location of it, I don't think it's a great location for a play structure with the highway and a ton of traffic, and there's a 4-way stop right there, and also the railroad itself. I know there is a fence, but I do have young kids, and I just don't think that that's the most ideal location for a playground, and also for the price tag of it. I also would rather put that somewhere else. Those are my 2 cents.
All right, thank you. Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to echo some of what Councillor McLean said. While I thank administration for their work putting this together, I think our goal was to commemorate the location of Tank 77. I'm not sure that this play structure necessarily does that or provides any information to visitors. It just is a very tiny playground with a very big price tag, and as Councillor McLean said, not in a necessarily ideal location. The park is fairly small, and so then the play structure also has to be very small. I would be more in favor of using a smaller portion of money and with some information, perhaps pictures of the original tank or more information for people so they could actually learn about what was at that location and why we're talking about putting it there in the first place.
All right, thank you. Councilor Brown?
Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd have to agree with Councilor Firth and Councilor McLean. I think we can spend the $75,000 elsewhere. Looking at past pictures in the Tabor Times of the old water tank, it's kind of an ugly building, so I'm really kind of glad we're not putting it up there. I think a good signage over, like an arch over the entrance to the park or something commemorating Tank 77, and again, such as a plaque describing why we had Tank 77 and the history of it, and how Tabor became about from Tank 77. Really, that's a lot of money to spend on something like this, I think. I think we're straying away from our goal in the first place was to make a commemorative park. So I could not vote in favor of this.
All right, thank you. Councilor Sorensen?
Thank you, and I can appreciate everyone's comments. I think the whole motion was just that we were trying to fulfill that grant, deadline and not just throw something up that I think it was proposed a $250,000 structure. So I appreciate all the work that administration did, but now that it's expired, maybe we can take a step back and be a bit more thoughtful in what we want placed there. In the recreation board, I think that we already have the garbages wrapped with information commemorating the Tank 77, and maybe there's some more goodies in the works. I'm not quite exactly sure what all, but maybe you can elaborate, Mr. Egan, on it, or maybe you want to save it for different time.
I don't have any further information other than the park does contain garbage containers that we typically wrap in town, as you've seen around. They're typically wrapped in some fashion, and these ones are wrapped with a Tank 77 theme that was chosen by the designer. And then the other features we have are picnic tables, and the park as it sits does meet the intent of the grant, which was to add to the downtown area and soften landscaping, that kind of thing. And so it was approved. Yes, and so we don't have any other specific plans at this particular moment in time. We're just working with council in order to figure out what that end goal, that program, that functionality might be, that then we can return with other options and with other prices. And we're happy to do this work over and over until we get to a spot where that everyone is comfortable and we've built a consensus that it's the right answer and that we're behind.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Egan. Appreciate that. And I would echo the other comments as well. Not a great place for playground structure in that capacity and or coming from capital reserves either, that amount. The whole concept has been always some kind of a green space, indoor parks, beautification format. But I did go back and look at the original presentation by Mr. Rene Angermeyer from Parallel Church. And roughly 10-minute presentation, that Tank 77 replica was a key point in his presentation, and asked, and the concept and the design drawing, et cetera, for some form of a Tank 77 replica at that location, for a draw to that location for people to turn off the highway and commemorate the actual first structure in Tabor, which was back in 1885. Hence the kind of design, Councilor Perrin, why that was back in the 1800s, that's form of design. It's not gonna be a beautification kind of an item per se, but you know what? In the form of a replica, I think is an important piece and always has been. It was a concept initially that was accepted by council, and that was the Parallel Churches partnership ask. And so I just going back, just to clarify, Mr. Egan did bring up programming at one time. If I'm understanding that, we could still go that route, Mr. Egan, with some form of several $1,000s. I believe you quoted previous about that possibility to go with some kind of a replica format and options available. That was, I think it was under a $10,000 bill, right? Does that sound right?
Yes, in a prior council meeting just after Christmas, administration had proposed a programming inception planning process that would work with council or a subcommittee or whoever you designate to try and identify the key parameters around what the purpose of the project would be, the functionality associated, if it's tourism related or history, informational, if there's any kind of operational aspect to it, the museum itself, or so in other words, to drive out all those key parameters, which that we could then look at potential sites and make sure that this is the optimal place for that kind of feature. And then we'd produce a document that we could use in future grant applications that would describe what it is, why it's important to the town, how much it'll cost, all those kind of things that granting agencies are typically interested in moving forward. And so at that time, we thought we had proposed a budget of approximately $6,000, so under $10,000.
Right, all right, thank you. Councillor Sorensen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just wondering if we could move this to the Art and Heritage Committee and get some ideas from that board. Maybe they have some ideas for us to develop this area. Also, I'm not sure.
All right, thank you. Councillor Beckering?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, that $10,000, I recall the conversation, that was just the concept planning, correct? There's nothing, no actual physical structure.
No, it's the inception plan, the initial idea, so that we're all kind of on the same page and we know what we're talking about and how much it'll cost. After that, presumably we get a grant, then we would move into a design, tender, construction phase to actually implement that particular project.
Right, thank you. Just to confirm, if we go that route, that's some of that money that's still available somewhere in the $200,000 roundabout that's left.
So the official expiry is the end of the month, so
Right.
we still have some time to do work and
Right.
Submit those bills.
So that's what I'm saying. That could be done for that smaller amount in that
Yes.
2-week window roughly. Okay. All right, I do have a formal motion involved here. Council directs administration to proceed with the programming and project inception planning work for Tank 77 replica and approves expense to be funded from the downtown revitalization grant. That would be the motion. If anybody has any additions, I would certainly open that possibility. But that takes care of the programming and/or, I believe as Mr. Egan said, under the $10,000 bill. Councilor Beckering?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can you read back, please?
Council directs administration to proceed with the programming and project inception planning work for a Tank 77 replica and approves expense to be funded from the downtown revitalization grant. Councilor Beckering?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this deals exclusively with the replica of the tank, correct?
Yes, correct. I believe whatever options that you were initially suggesting also. Mr. Egan, is that correct?
So the replica itself would be an answer to the direction, one potential answer to the direction of council. So the inception planning process is to kind of tease that out to figure out what it is that we're trying to achieve. And replica of some kind, and that's a very broad spectrum of because it could be a full-size 1800s authentic replica, or it could be an image of the replica with more history. It depends on what, again, the program requirements are that council and or who you designate for us to talk with and try and build a consensus around what success looks like for this particular initiative. So the replica in that location, as proposed by Parallel Church, is definitely one potential answer.
All right, thank you, Councilor Bruin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This grant money could also be used for signage like the overhead arch entryway, welcome to Tank 77, and plaques.
Yeah, the grant itself is not specific. It's the park was approved with the Tank 77 concept included in it, and so I'm sure the granting agency would be fine with whatever that becomes specifically, if it's an arch or
I'm stepping away from a replica just because I think the cost for just to see a replica, but information about the tank, I think would be more valuable to the public, that they could read about it instead of seeing something that looks like the tank that was originally there, because it's not in the same spot. I think let's just move on, and we have a nice park there and put some nice signage up, is my opinion.
Councillor Renford?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So with me not being part of it before, but we still have some time to use some of this grant money, I'm for sure in favor of reading your motion. You know, we can spend some money, because I think there is still, with you guys, with the council having accepted Mr. Angermeyer's thought of the tank, having the tank as an option down the low road isn't a terrible idea. And if we can use some of the grant money still available to get a little bit more picture on that idea, I see no issue. The grant's going to run out. If we don't do nothing, it just runs out anyway. So I'm in favor of reading your motion.
All right, thank you. Any other discussion? All right, we do have a motion on the table. Councillor Firth?
Would you accept a friendly amendment to your motion to, instead of stating replica, commemoration of Tank 77? Because I think that creates, replica to me means a model of the actual structure, which I am not in favor of. But if we're talking about, as Mr. Egan said, something that is going to commemorate the location, not necessarily a replica per se, then I would be in favor of using grant funding, only grant money, to come to that conclusion.
All right, I'm just, I thought originally, as Mr. Egan had said, that did kind of cover all those bases anyway, did it not, Mr. Egan? As far as the options, I wasn't talking about, I don't think one sole option, but that's part of what your program was about to start with, right?
So the programming functionality is to build consensus. And so we would interpret, I would interpret the use of the word replica very broadly in this case, because we're really trying to drive that consensus with all the diverse opinions and arrive at something that everyone can agree to in some location, which is why we call it project inception planning. And this is pretty common at the beginning of ideas, that there isn't consensus, and it makes it tough to move into the design, tender, construct stage when you don't have that broad understanding and sort of one theme that everyone agrees to. So we wouldn't move out of that phase of work until we had developed that consensus. That would be success for this particular bit of work.
All right, thank you, Mr. Egan. Does that make sense, Councillor Firth, to address your questions or concerns there?
As long as, yes, we all understand, replica does not mean replica in the literal sense.
Well, as I said, I think I was referring, like he covered that's considering the replica / options
Then
attached
yes,
to whatever.
I am satisfied with that.
Okay. All right, very well. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Great, thank you. All right, on to item 7.8, response to standing item resolution 26/2024, traffic control bylaw. Mr. Thibault?
So if administration could explain this a little bit, this is a resolution that Councillor Bruin had asked to come back in front of council. It was a very broad request, so administration didn't really come back with any specific adjustments. The motion had asked that the bylaw and the policy come back in front of council, and then there be a discussion around what those things to change might be. So we attached the traffic control bylaw and the traffic committee policy, really for council's discussion as to what we just didn't know what to change. We didn't know what was after what was wanted. So we haven't got any real suggestions at this point. So we'll turn it back over to council to maybe have that discussion and make those suggestions for administration and give us some direction.
All right, thank you, Councillor Bruin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My intent of bringing this back to council was I don't think it's right that the traffic committee can make decisions without council's approval with stop signs or parking areas. I think that's a council decision. I think they should be making recommendations to council like our other committees do. And if, you know, because we have to answer for any of the things that the traffic committee does, it should be on council's plate to make the final decision. Reading the policy statement, the last sentence of item 1 there is MGA delegated authority rests with council for improvement of all permanent traffic control devices and the CAO for other measures. So I read that if you were to put a stop sign up, that's a council approval. I think the council has to have a little more say on our traffic control in the town and designate parking areas.
All right, thank you. No questions attached to that, just comment related to that. All right, thank you. Any other questions arising? Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and administration can certainly correct me if I am wrong on this, but permanent traffic control devices, such as stop signs, do come to council. That is a decision of council currently. And as well as the parking decision that was made that I think initially, that initiated this whole discussion, was the traffic committee made a recommendation to the Municipal Planning Commission?
Just to the planning department.
To the planning department.
It was actually in sort of an unofficial request that came our way so that they
Okay.
wouldn't have to spend money on a development permit initially if that wasn't going to be well received.
Right, so it wasn't, it was not a denial of the request by the traffic committee. Because I don't think the traffic committee does have that authority currently.
Mr. Thibault, I'm not sure. I think that's exactly what you're saying. It didn't come through the traffic committee initially.
There was a request that came from the developer through planning. Planning went and asked the traffic committee what they would be thinking about. And in section 13, it offers an awful lot of, parking being one of them, an awful lot of authority to land on the CAO to decide on parking. I sit on the traffic committee. And so I think that's why it might have been sent my way, is because it's to do with parking and parking on town lands or town utility right-of-ways or boulevards and all that type of parking stuff currently lands with the CAO inside the traffic control bylaw. So even if it was an official request, I guess I would say the bylaw today says that I have the ultimate decision-making authority on that particular instance, being the parking over by where the developer was requesting in this case. So, I mean, if that's what we want to make changes to, then yeah, you'd have to just give administration direction on what you'd like the CEO to be able to do or not be able to do with all the other stuff in there.
All right, thank you. Councillor Renford.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess this is going to you, Darren. Like, obviously, with streets, like we have committees so that we don't have 9-hour meetings, right, to deal with other stuff, which is great, which I totally appreciate. So, you know, we're not dealing with stuff that, like, you know, administration is coming about, like stop signs and that. This is a developer request. If it was denied, he could have appealed it, would probably go back to, you know, an appeal thing, and could end up here anyway. So on a specific thing like a parking denied, I imagine it would come to us to stop future stuff. You know, I don't know how we plan for that anyway, so I think we kind of already are by having these committees. So I think if it was that way, I mean, I would, if I was a developer, I'd just appeal it, and hopefully it would get to council or up to the top. So that's my interpretation.
All right, thank you. Councillor Brown.
What other committee do we have that can pass rules without coming to council? All of our committee make recommendations to council. I'm not talking specifically just parking. Before we stopped by A&W there, I got a lot of people asking why that was done. And I do not believe that came to council. Because I know I ran it the first time I saw it. I didn't know it was there until after I went through it. But that one did not come to council in any memory I have of it. So I really think there should be recommendations made to council from this committee for us to pass or deny. It's the only committee that doesn't do that as far as I can tell. A lot of power goes into one councillor, CEO, and the administration.
Just to reiterate what Councillor Firth said, I believe that just to confirm that's accurate, Mr. Thibault. That's if there is a change for a traffic control device, that does actually come to council, correct?
Yes, so I wasn't I don't have a real firsthand knowledge of history, but my understanding was that that was also allowable previous to that particular stop sign. I think there was that stop sign or something similar that had moved that authority away from the traffic committee, because it used to be with the traffic committee, was my understanding. And then there was a large public outcry for a particular traffic control device, and so that was peeled out of the traffic committee's authority so that those would come to council. So currently, the long answer, yes, those devices do come to council.
Okay, so I think that, Councilor, if I may, I think that covers your concerns, actually, because those do come to council about traffic control devices, but not necessarily the parking side. So that's a separate entity, right? But basically, everything that's done at the traffic committee level comes to council in the minutes. So we see the minutes. If you're reading all the minutes, everything that's dealt with and talked about is privy to council, right? Councilor Brown?
We see it in the minutes after it's already been passed, though. It doesn't come to council for our approval. It's in the minutes, we read the minutes, oh, traffic committee passed this. I think council should have some say on any decision committees make, whether it be Trout Pond, MPC, or anything. We all make recommendations to council. Like if we want to slow an area of town down, does the traffic committee have authority to do that, or does it have to come to council for the decision to be made? They can recommend it or not recommend it, but I just feel that we're kind of out of the loop with the traffic committee.
All right, thank you. Councilor Beckering?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a tendency to agree with some points of Councilor Bruin's position, but I would strongly suggest that administration take a look at other traffic committees from different communities in southern Alberta, you know, smaller towns or smaller cities, and do a good look at them and come up with a recommendation regarding the policy and procedures of our bylaw and our traffic committee policy.
Yeah, thank you, Councilor Berg. I think that's good advice. You know what? All things considered, I think we actually do have a very good traffic committee, and with our Councilor Firth on that committee, as well as our CEO Darren Thibault. And is it Chief Abella that's still sitting on that for the police service?
Police Chief Abella is on the committee.
So you get those three in the mix. I think that's got all the bases covered to me. And, you know, with strong recommendation from the police service is fairly key. Meetings I've attended in the past, probably 80% of the questions were directed to the police representative, right? Isn't that pretty similar to what is now? More things than not are coming up and question to the police chief?
It is. He's usually the best person to respond to whatever's going on, but it's a pretty collaborative effort. He doesn't get to, it's not a one person decides.
Right, but again, it's a broad range, and I believe we have all the bases covered. So I would hazard a guess that other locations don't likely have police representation, but for sure, I would agree with what Councilor Beckering is suggesting. This is probably a proper path to follow. Councilor Beckering.
Mr. Mayor, I'm prepared to make a motion then.
Sure, you
bet. Council directs administration to research neighboring community traffic committees, if there are any, and traffic control bylaws, if there are any, at a future meeting. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table.
Just a question.
Councilor Beckering, sure.
A question.
Or Councilor Brewer.
You said traffic control bylaws, or should you not say the policy of the traffic control policy statement? Well, that's kind of two different entities, is it not? You have the policy, then we have our bylaws.
Certainly suggest a friendly amendment, Councilor Bruin. You did.
Did you?
You did.
Okay, I'm sorry, my mistake.
All right, yes. All right, motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, on to 7.9, visual identity standards. Mr. Thibault.
We'll get Ms. Megan Brennan to come up and speak to this policy.
All right, thank you, Ms. Brennan.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I feel slightly anticlimactic bringing a policy, but here we are. So this is just a standard renewal for the 3 years for the Visual Identity Standards policy. There's just very minor changes, just outlining some different positions and the corresponding procedure. For the benefit of those councillors that might not have been here when this was originally passed 3 years ago, the Visual Identity Standards is, some may understand it is called a branding document,
but that doesn't encompass everything. Our visual identity standards kind of encompasses everything, including the way that our presentation looks, the way that our coat of arms is handled, the way that our logo is handled. It encompasses everything from trademark to copyright. Council retains the trademark over the logo, if you will, and the coat of arms of the town of Taber. But should you choose to change that at any time, we update the visual identity standards, and that's how the branding is used. It gives us protection so people aren't using our logo and our designs inappropriately and things like that. So, and just for full transparency for council, the reason that it's attached to the procedure and not the policy is because it's usually operational. We're doing the design work, we're doing the branding, things like that. You just decide what branding we use. So that's why you don't see it attached here in the policy, it's in the procedure. But I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? All right, Councillor Reffert, very well.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll make a motion that council approves the visual identity standards ADM-12 policy as presented.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, item 710, standing item, council requests. Mr. Thibault.
Okay, here we are. Let's make this a little bigger. So resolution number 294, we have revisited this. We were waiting to hear what was happening today so that we could progress a little further on that particular one. So it'll all probably come part and parcel. If council recalls, the reason this came forward to begin with was to try and address SATRA and a horse crossing and update an emergency vehicle downtown. So those have been sort of waiting in the wings for quite some time to get to the answer. So the previous traffic bylaw obviously is the one still in effect, waiting for this one to happen. The sidewalk, we have got one answer back from Shaw. Shaw is not opposed to doing a sidewalk over the connecting piece from, I forget the actual address, 60th Avenue between the school and Park Place, I think is. We are still waiting on Fortis and TELUS to provide an answer back. So Shaw says it's okay. So we're heading in the right direction, I guess. We just addressed the Councillor Bruin for the traffic bylaw and the policy. For Mr. Mayor's resolution around the sound system, I know that one quote has come back. I believe we're still waiting on one more or maybe two more, depending on who decides they'd like to respond to the sound system. We'll be discussing some utility bill stuff a little further before we can progress any further on that one. And still in progress, the survey request by Councillor Firth for our development permit process. And that's all I have. I think we have a coffee with council coming up this month, and maybe that will add to the list.
It's very possible. Absolutely. All right, any questions related to what's on the list at this stage? All right, seeing none. Any new standing item? Councillor requests. Councillor Bruin?
I'll just like to comment a little bit on the Civic Center Arena and the main auditorium sound system. The Taber Titans Arena, our tournament this weekend for the food bank was amazing, but the sound was terrible. You could not understand the 50-50 draw numbers or really anything like that. And I really wish we could do something so that you could understand the announcers there. I guess we're working on it, but it really does need some work.
Yeah, I would agree. That's what was brought up originally, and has many complaints and or concerns about both locations. So that's in the works, and I think we're on track with that, and hopefully get some positivity back and reasonable actual quotes to go forward with this in the future. All right, I think Councillor Reffert can also attest to that. Anybody else in the building, anytime. It's just, yeah, it's.
I think I won the 50-50.
Yeah. You got to buy tickets to do that. You probably did anyway, but anyway. But no, it's in the works, so I'm confident it will be improved upon in a timely manner. So any other new standing item council requests whatsoever? None whatsoever. Boy, that's a break. Yeah. All right. Item 8, no delegations. Item 9, media inquiries. Mr. Tebow, any media inquiries whatsoever?
I'm getting the nod of no.
All right. That's the usual. That's the norm. All right. With that, I would ask for a motion to close the meeting, please. Councillor McLean, motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you.